All right, let's get right into the stock charts, try to find some trade ideas, and read the charts for what they are telling us, where the market's heading next. If you're new to the channel, I try not to basically tell you where the market is right now. A lot of channels say, oh, the market went up today. That's short-term bullish. Yeah, we know that. What I'm trying to do is point out what the charts are telling me today for where the charts might head next week. Because the reality is, to make money in the stock market, you got to be there first usually. To make the real money, you got to be in a trade first, or you know, you got to be early basically a lot of the times to catch most of the money. So it's important to you know, just to know where the charts might go next. You don't have to enter a trade before, you know, a level breaks or momentum starts to gain, but I think it's important to be able to at least anticipate where it might go, so when you see the price action actually happening, you know what's going on. All right, so we're going to close out the week today, and so we've got weekly charts. So I'm going to try to make this a habit on Fridays. We're going to start off with the weekly charts because we're closing out a week, and that tells us larger trends, larger ideas, and ultimately, if you get the large ideas right, you can position yourself and just ride the trend, and you don't have to sweat the the small little zigs and zags, because you're riding the larger trend. So I think that's important. We're going to start out with tech, QQQ, because tech is basically the entire market. The market caps of the FANGs pretty much dwarf anything else, and if the FANGs are moving, the market's moving. That's basically how it's going to play out until the market cap weighting of the FANGs decreases or some other stocks increase. So right now, here's what I see on the Qs. I've got a lot of little levels and a lot of little lines drawn. Some of these are playing out for my hourly charts, but if I just get rid of the lines for now, I want everyone to focus on the candles that we have right there. I guess they won't let me do that, but basically this candle and this candle, which is this weekly candle. So here's what I see on these candles. I see the previous candle was an outside day, or an outside week, I guess, candle. An outside week, for anyone that doesn't know, is where you trade basically, you basically trade on the outside parameters of the previous week's candle. So you can see here we moved up, kind of opened the week basically above the previous week, ran all the way up here, but then reversed and sold off and came all the way down and closed the week. You know, we basically closed the week below the body of the previous candle. So you can see the body of this candle encompasses the previous body's candle, not by a whole lot, but it still does. So that's an outside week, and that usually that's a heads up that there's a potential reversal in play. That's a reversal candle. Now this is on the weekly chart, so when you get a reversal in the weekly, it's usually you know, it could mean that the larger trend is changing, and you're now going to see the next trend potentially going the other way. If I look here throughout the entire rally of 2020, I can't find an outside candle anywhere. We did have some reversal doji candles on the weekly. You can see here was a doji, but we got no follow through. There was no confirmation candle. When you get a reversal candle, a doji, or an outside day or outside week candle, you want to look for confirmation. Here's another, you know, another doji right there. No confirmation. So there was no outside days and no dojis with confirmation. So we never had a weekly reversal signal until now. And you can see there's your outside day, and the following week confirmation. So I don't think that they're going to be able to recover this today. I mean, we have an hour left in trading, but most likely this is going to close down, you know, lower, and that's going to be confirmation on this reversal candle. So that's larger term sell signal. You know, that's longer term sell signals basically is what we're saying. We have a reversal, we have a confirmation. So we bring back the trend lines, and on the weekly we had this trend line right here, this uptrend line, and we've broken that now on the weekly, and I think that's going to remain broken. So we've got a breakdown ultimately in Qs, we've got breakdowns in the on the weekly chart. If I go to the daily now, we'll just narrow it down. You can see kind of this flagging action right here. They're probably not going to close. They're not going to break it down, it seems like, this week. They'll probably close it right in this area somewhere. And, but the point is, on the daily, here's your uptrend line right here that the rally has been in. And we broke. Here's your breakdown, impulsive breakdown right there. We did a back test. Didn't quite get there, stopped short of the full back test, but came pretty close, and then impulsively have sold off over, since pretty much that back test. You can see both these days, good, impulsive selling there. So that is the only way to read that I see is that markets are heading lower. And, if the Qs goes lower, SPY's going lower, it's going with it. Levels to target. Obviously, we've got this price channel. So here's this long-term bull market price channel that Qs has been working its way up over the last 12 years. And that falls right about 258 right now on the Qs. So that could be an area where we'll get some sort of reaction. Or we could cut, kind of break down into it. And if we break down into it, maybe we'll head a little lower. Here's a level right here, 250. It's about 251. Somewhere right in there might be some support. I expect we'll find some level of support in this zone here. So, but in the short term, I think next week, possibly the week after, we head lower. All right, S&P 500, the SPY tracks the S&P 500 pretty good. And here's the weekly chart. So get rid of the lines, and we can see this wasn't really an outside day, the previous candle. So not necessarily a reversal candle, pretty much an equal candle to the previous week. So not every reversal candle, but we do have follow through selling. So, sometimes reversals don't come with reversal candlesticks. And so then we go to the trend lines. We see what we have here on the trend lines. The trend line here on the weekly, it doesn't show that clean. I've got it better on the daily. You can see here, if I get rid of some of these markups that I've been doing, lots of support levels. But you can see here, this trend line here is, any way I draw this, if I draw it from the lows, it's broken. But the way I like it better is from right here. It kind of lines up better with like the triple Qs. And you can see that this trend line, had several reactions right there. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we had an impulsive breakdown with confirmation right there. Didn't quite have a kickback, and we're seeing more selling. So I think we head lower on the SPY, probably going down to this level. I would think that we'll get some sort of reaction right here. Looks like I've already got it marked out right there around 324. And we'll just evaluate that as it comes. For me, Qs is really where it's at. I'm watching the Qs. It's a lot more important than the SPY. The SPY is going to do what the Qs does, and the Qs has been the lead. That's where the leadership's been, and all the strength. So if you get the Qs right, you'll get the SPY right. Here's gold bullion. You can see we've just been wedging, and the week is probably going to close right within the wedge. So it's just ultimately it's an indecision pattern right now. So it could break up, could break down. I don't know. I think it's going to break down. That's what my gut tells me. And I see if the other markets break down, I think we'll get a kind of an impulsive sell-off, just an initial sell-off, maybe some liquidation selling in gold down to the 1790 is my target. Doesn't mean it's going to play out, and it could obviously break to the upside, but I think it's going to 1790. One of the reasons I think that is the dollar. You can see here on the weekly chart with the dollar, where it looks like we're going to close up, kind of have a breakout candle on the weekly. Not a huge breakout. If I go to the daily chart, you can see we started to make this downward channel, but we broke to the upside. We did a back test right here. This is a back test at that 92 level. Just yesterday, the dollar sold off, tagged that, held support, and ramped higher. And today we're holding support, holding strength. And that's good. The fact that we're just holding strength after backtesting tells me that the dollar's going higher. Going to head up probably to this 95 level. XLV, just another down week, essentially, in the XLV. Again, I think XLV trades with the Qs. I think in general, most of the markets are going to trade with the Qs, with the tech sector. And so I think XLV is heading down to probably this 101, maybe get a little reaction, and then down to this 97. XLF on the weekly. Solid breakdown here on the weekly chart. And we've had a couple breakdowns on this weekly, but we've got another down week starting to break down out of this uptrend and confirm it and hold it. You can see here on the daily, this is XLF. We had an uptrend on the financials that was broken, back tested for several days, and about 2 weeks it looks like we back tested, and now it looks like we're going to close the day a good distance away from that trend line. So doesn't mean it can't impulsively do another back test. You can back test multiple times, but this is starting to fade away, so you have to kind of read it for what it is. The price action's starting to go down. I'm liking volatility right now, and I think we'll get some sort of an impulsive launch higher. I don't think it's happening today, obviously. Next week potentially. And we had that initial breakout here, and we started to fade down, but the markets are starting to fade down too, and volatility hasn't caught up yet. So I think that you should see a spike or pop in volatility. And this thing obviously can run, if it gets going, we could get up to 45, 50, somewhere right in there. I think a break above the recent highs obviously would be a clear signal that, volatility is going to run. But when this thing runs, it usually runs fast. So could come in the form of a gap next week. Maybe we gap down in the markets on Monday overnight, and volatility spikes and opens higher. It's a possibility. Apple, you can see on the weekly chart, here's an uptrend, and this marks out on the daily. We haven't quite broken that, and it's, we're probably not going to break this trend on the weekly this week. So, if Apple hasn't broken trend, that, the market's not going down unless Apple breaks trend, is what I'm trying to say. So I expect Apple to break trend. If I go to the daily chart here, you can see here's your March lows. It's not the best trend line because we've got a reaction here, reaction there, and a reaction here. So we don't have that many reactions on this trend line. So we do have to watch that. I can move the trend line up to something like this. And if I do that, that gives me, I'm going to have to tighten it up just a little bit here. If I move the trend line to this, how I have it here, this is how I've had it, then this was a false breakdown. And I think that I like this trend line better on the daily chart because the false breakdown right here, it broke down impulsively, went sideways, and then gapped up. So it was a false breakdown or a bear trap. It gapped up and impulsively moved higher as short scrambled to cover. And that's what I read from that. So if that's true, then if I move into here, you can see we've had the breakdown, did a back test, tried to recover right here, but failed, and we're closing below the trend. If I flip this over to the weekly, though, then it has this week as a breakdown week. So we'll have to watch this and see how it goes. I'm going to leave the trend line here. I like this trend line better. Obviously, everybody can draw a trend line however they want, but this one, it's better on the daily. So I'm going to leave it here, and we'll continue to watch this. Microsoft on the weekly broke trend on the weekly chart. Amazon broke trend on the weekly chart. So, you can see nice clean up trend, close below. So that's a breakdown. Google, I don't have my trend line drawn out, but something like this, and we broke trend right here. You can see on the week we did a full back test and failed, so breaking trend. Tesla, here's what I got on the weekly right here, has not broken trend. They haven't given that one up yet. Tesla is most likely, when it breaks trend, it's probably going to come in the form of a gap. There's so much money there's long money on that they've got to trap that money. They can't. Not everyone can get out at the same time. So I think that won't come until we see a gap down. Adobe, another strong performer in the Nasdaq. On the weekly chart, here's your uptrend right here. We broke that trend right back here, did a full back test, and have now failed to confirming sell-off week. So to me, this looks very weak. Looks like we're going to go lower. Nvidia on the weekly, another strong performer, was making a bearish rising wedge. We broke trend. Now they're trying to recover that, but there's only 40 minutes left in the day, so they could run this up and close it back above this 500 level and have what's called like a stick save, basically, where they last minute save it. But as of right now, we're below trend. Looks like we're going to close below trend on the weekly chart. That's bearish. With larger trend, when things start to look bearish and you start to get a turning point on the weekly chart, usually you're we're talking about the next major trend, not just a couple days of a down move. We're talking about months, basically, multiple months where prices could potentially move lower. And we'll wrap up here with the Nasdaq Futures, because those will be the first thing you get a look at on Sunday evening. And so Nasdaq Futures, weekly chart, broken trend, closing. It looks like we're going to close the week down near the lows with a break of trend. So in general, it's bearish. We've got a break of trend. We've got closing near the lows on the week. To me, that says heading lower, probably going to head down to this 10,007 or 670 area. Get a reaction there. You can see we have several reactions back here, so we'll probably get some sort of a reaction there. And then we'll have to see how this continues to play out. But as of right now, I think we head lower. And, from here, that's a 3.5% drop in the futures. So that's all I got that's all I really have right now. So that's your weekly wrap up. Appreciate it. Thank you. Catch you on the next one.